Welcome to the show on Saturday, the 14th of April 2018. Unfortunately, it's not good news. The Americans and the British and French and whoever else have authorised and launched missile strikes in Syria, which at the moment apparently has ceased. There's been 40 or 50 minutes worth of missiles fired in and apparently attacking the Assad regime. We all know that, so what am I talking about? My concern is this, and far too few people are talking about this, aside from the obvious war. This is my concern. We have been told that Assad once again has used chemical weapons on his own people. Yeah, that's what we've been told. And the problem I have with this is we've been presented no proof whatsoever. Okay, we're just told to accept their word for it. And the people who we're being told to believe are the politicians. Who is backing up the politicians? That's right, it's the mainstream media. Why does that concern me? Well, if you have lived on this planet for at least 10-20 years, you will recall this incident in Iraq. Now, I don't want to go over and belabour the point, but back then, because this is important, we were told that not only did Iraq have weapons of mass destruction, but that Saddam Hussein was this evil bad dictator who was doing all these bad things, and whenever he felt like it, he could fire them and hit London, not to mention the rest of Europe, within 45 minutes. So if he gave the word at 1 o'clock, at 1:45, we were all covered in yellow cake or depleted uranium or chemicals or whatever. That's what we were told. And we were told it again and again and again. And what did the media do? They just repeated it. Did they ask any questions? No, they just repeated it. Did they ask for any evidence? No. We were just told to take their word for it, and Tony Blair and George Bush and whoever else just went for it. And then well over 1 million deaths later, mainly Iraqis, civilians, but a number of British and American troops and a few others no doubt from the coalition forces, we were told not only did Iraq not have any weapons of mass destruction, any chemical weapons, whatever,
those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. As you can tell from the look on Andy Card's face, we've become a little concerned about the vice president lately. Whenever you ask him a question, he replies, "Let's see what my little friend says." But we get along well. Here I am saying, "Dick, if the Hunan Palace doesn't get lunch here in 4 minutes, we're going out." Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
but we were told unequivocally that our leaders and intelligence people lied. So they didn't make a mistake like, oh, I forgot to carry the zero, or I didn't hear the radio transmission clearly, I thought he said yes, but really it was no. They were shown and proven by the Shilcott inquiry, amongst others, to have purposely lied to get us into that war. By extension, it was an illegal war. and by extension over 1 million people were killed in what was Western sanctioned genocide, right? An illegal war killing over 1 million civilians as genocide. So let's fast forward to today. Oh, just one more thing on that. The media afterwards apologised. The mainstream media apologised and basically said, look, sorry, we didn't do our job properly. We didn't ask questions when we should have done. We didn't provide enough challenges. We just kind of went along with it. Well, here we are now with Syria. And just so we're all on the same page, Assad had the enemy, which was ISIS, the rebels, whatever you want to call them. The enemy, as far as Assad was concerned, which is apparently our enemy as well, right, ISIS. He had them pinned down to the last major town in the entire country, right? So, he had all but won. There were people, including Trump and other Western leaders, talking about the idea of graduating onto peace, Assad could stay, blah blah blah, and he's gonna win, and all the rest of it, and that would be the end of that, right? So everybody's looking forward to turning over this new page where Assad seemingly gets everything he wants and everybody else get what they want because ISIS is defeated and blah blah blah. At least officially that's the story, right? Everybody gets what they want. And then lo and behold, the one thing that could mess up Assad's plans, the one thing which we know from Barack Obama days and other times, is this so-called red line, which if he crosses, gives the West no choice but to go in and take out the Assad regime, right? And that's exactly what happens. There's this chemical attack, and we are now told to believe, again without any evidence, Assad done it. Only this time it seems more ridiculous than ever. I mean, at least Saddam Hussein having missiles that could reach us in 45 minutes, there was kind of this, well, maybe he could. Whereas in this case, it sounds so preposterous that the guy would do this. That I'm just about to win and get everything I want, and I've been at this war for years, I'm going to stay in power, the other leaders are talking about letting me stay here. What do we do, General? I know, Mr. Sir Assad, sir. Let's chemically bomb our own people, especially the women and children, And then that will be a huge advantage. What we'll do is we'll bomb an insignificant town of no strategic advantage whatsoever, no strategic significance. Well, why should we do that, General? Well, it gives the West an excuse to come in and kill you. Sounds like a good idea to me. Let's do it. Come on, that's a most ridiculous idea. So here's Assad, a few days from declaring victory, and the one thing that could stop him takes place, and we are told to believe Assad done it. And not only that, Russia is at fault because they facilitated the ability, they provided the cover, whatever. Right. But we are told to believe this by whom? By the media, right? The mainstream media, obviously, they're telling us to believe this. Where's the mainstream media channel, anyone, anywhere, in the West, that is asking questions about this, that is asking for evidence, that is even raising the idea that I just suggested? Why would Assad even do this? Where is the media asking these questions? I'll give you a hint. I can't find any, and I've looked. But there's plenty of media that seemingly like robots are not only pushing war and repeating the rhetoric, but they're as though they're personally vested in promoting it. It's bizarre. It's almost as though they're on some sort of commission or bonus to get this war going. The way that, I mean, if you heard, we've got this lady on Sky News in the UK called Kay Berlin. She was saying, I know there's no evidence that Assad did it, but just say there was, what should we do? That was what she said. This is a couple of days ago. I know there's no evidence, but let's just assume that he did do it. What should our response be? So you can already see all these people, for whatever reason, are thinking, war, war, war. There was the head of the British Army, retired now, but the head, he came on Sky News and he said, and this is yesterday, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that there even was a chemical attack, and if there was, that Assad did it. There's no evidence. He was cut off. The channel, the interview was cut off. Conveniently. It's almost as though the only people they want on are the people who are going to say, yeah, Assad, he's bad. He's hurting his own people. Let's get him. Let's bomb the place, right? So I ask you, as listener, as viewer of the news, why do you think all the media is hell-bent on attacking Syria? What objective do you think this will achieve? Why do you think they're not showing you or us any evidence at all? They're just asking us to take their word for it. The same people that pushed Iraq. The same people that pushed Afghanistan. Why did we go for Afghanistan? It was because of Bin Laden, right? Why did we go after him? Because of 9/11, right? And then what were we told? When there was that debacle near the end of Obama's presidency, what was it called? Something like the 11 pages? The hidden 11 pages that were made, that were released? Who did it say was responsible for 9/11? Turned out it had nothing at all to do with Bin Laden. Turned out in these hidden, but they were like the secret pages of the 9/11 report, and they declassified them. I think it was 11 pages, 12 pages. It turned out it was Saudi Arabia that funded this attack. So I ask you, those hidden pages, they were hidden from the public for all those years, but the fact is, they were available to the people in charge of the American war machine from day one. So why did they go into Afghanistan? The people who voted to attack were the same people that already knew what was on those hidden pages on the 9/11 report. They already knew because they had access from day one. It was only the public that found out 10 or so years later, 12 years later, what was on those pages. In fact, 15 or so years later. But the people in charge knew from day one because they were the ones that covered it up and made it confidential, obviously. So, the West, that's us, that's America, that's England, that's, the EU, NATO, Australia, New Zealand, this is the Western coalition, have a track record of fighting illegal wars and fabricating evidence and covering up evidence where it suits. And yet we're being asked to take these people, word for it, to attack Syria. So I ask you one more thing. Even if you couldn't care less about the people in Syria, if you couldn't care less about Assad and his regime, you couldn't care less about the Syrian people and the women and the children. You couldn't care less, right? Although I hope many of you do, and I guess you do if you're listening to this, because if you didn't, you'd have tuned out long ago. If you care about yourself, remember who's backing Syria. Remember who's got Syria's back. It's Russia. And who's got the most nuclear weapons on the planet, second to America? It's Russia. Just ignore my cat there. It's Russia. And if Russia is defending Syria, and we attack Syria, and Russia's getting surrounded, if you look on the map, one by one, the West, NATO, the EU, whatever, has expanded east towards Russia. Putin is probably starting to feel a little bit threatened and a little bit surrounded. And here we are attacking the one neighbour he has that separates us from him. We're risking World War III here, which means thermonuclear war, which means Armageddon. I mean, let's be honest. We are risking this nuclear World War III. Over what? Over the unsubstantiated allegations by the mainstream media that Assad used chemical weapons. Who did they get their information from? The politicians. And they're not exactly got a good record of honesty. And who did the politicians claim to get their evidence from? And I don't want to explain that, because if I said that, people wouldn't believe me, so I'll ask you to look that up. Who originally claimed that there'd been a chemical attack this time round in Syria? Who were the people that claimed that it had happened? And I'll give you a clue. It was the people that Assad had all but taken out. They had one trick left to pull, and it looks like they pulled it. The world is being asked to believe that Assad done it. We are now, looks like, going after Assad. We've already fired off a huge salvo of missiles. If Russia responds, and for what? Because a handful of completely uncredible people told another handful of completely uncredible people, told a handful of liars, who told a handful of repeaters that Assad done it. And we seem to be okay with that. I don't see any protests. There's some people marching in Germany, and they're marching against the German military being involved in this conflict. But other than that, where's the protests? As it happens, none yet. Let's hope the people can muster something up soon and quick. Because the alarming thing is here, how quickly we went from a nothingness to there's been an attack, to Assad done it, to on the brink of World War III. It's happened like that. If you look at the time scale, this has all happened inside 10 days. We've gone from on the verge of peace breaking out on one scale of the 10 days to on the verge of World War III breaking out on the other end of 10 days. And it's only taken a handful of people to tell a handful of porkies and repeat to achieve it. And that, to me, is the most alarming thing of all. And I'll leave you with that. Take care, everyone. Let's hope, as Putin says, calmer heads prevail. Peace.